growing your vegetable garden in containers, it can feel a little bit intimidating of picking the right pot size. But worry not, I'll show you the right guide on how to pick the right pot size for the right plants. Because different plants need different pot sizes, and not all are created equal. Welcome back to Pingu's Garden. If you have or haven't seen my channel before, please consider subscribing and I'll see you guys in the video. When picking the perfect pot size, you might want to consider the ideal pot size for most plants and vegetables. You might want to consider as well that there are some plants that need bigger pots and some plants that need smaller pots. You may also want to consider that some plants are suited for pots and some are not. Choosing the material of your pot is important depending on which climate you live. And since we're growing in containers, pot size equals the amount of water you're giving, so sometimes you have to water more and sometimes you have to water less. Number 1, there's an important pot size that fits most vegetables. When it comes to gardening, not all plants are created equal, so some are going to need bigger pot sizes and some are going to need smaller sizes. But there always is a in-between pot size that will work for most plants, and some plants will still not fit in that and may need more room, but it generally works for most vegetables. This pot size is around 5 gallons. 5 gallons is a pot size that just allows enough root space for your bigger rooted crops like tomatoes and eggplants, and is plenty of room for your smaller rooted crops like lettuces, spinaches, and there's other vegetables that I'm not going to name in this video. Another benefit with using a 5-gallon pot is that you don't have to buy that much soil for it, and with a big bag of soil you could probably fill up around 3, which is pretty good, instead of filling one 10-gallon pot and then running out of room. Most of my garden are in 5-gallon grow bags, and this ensures that most of the vegetables here just have enough root space to grow and produce fruit and stay healthy. Number 2, you have to understand the idea that some plants need more root space than others, and some don't need as much root space as some of your bigger vegetables. Plants like tomatoes, cucumbers, squash really need a lot of root space, and so they're going to need up to 10 to 15 gallons sometimes if you really want to get them big, but as I said before, most plants can grow in a 5-gallon pot just fine. Some of your smaller rooted crops like lettuces and spinach can fit in pots of 2 to 3 gallons, so it works just fine for those plants in a smaller pot, but for bigger pots or plants, you might want to consider. Point number 3 is a simple one. Some plants just don't belong in containers. If you've ever seen those world-breaking watermelon plants and those huge pumpkins, you know those probably can't grow in containers. And this is generally for bigger plants like melons. Some of those big varieties you might want to not grow in containers and it's just not going to turn well out for you. I'd recommend picking the dwarf varieties, which definitely works. So this variety over here, it's called Sugar Baby. It grows well in pots. I don't know if I had that much success, but it works. I've seen other people do it. Point number 5 is that the material you choose your pot really does matter, especially depending on your climate. There are a few different types of pots. So there's fabric pots, plastic pots, which is the standard one you'll find at the store, and there are also terracotta pots, which you can also find at the store, but they're a little more expensive. Generally, for the cheapest price and just most affordability, as well as just it's really easy to set up, I definitely pick grow bags. Grow bags, I have almost all my pots are literally grow bags, and they work really well. Since my climate is typically very humid, grow bags work pretty well here. If your climate is a little more hot, you can always stick to plastic pots because they conserve a little more water, but they are a little more expensive, but they do work well in my experience as well. Terracotta pots are really for the aesthetic, and honestly they do dry out fast, so I would be careful if you're going to grow a bunch of vegetables in it, but generally they also do work, and you just have to make sure to get some kind of moisture controller because you have to make sure you're watering your plants on time. And point number 5, the pot size you choose equates to how often you have to water. Generally, the larger pot size, the less you have to water because more soil conserves more water. Smaller pots, less soil to conserve the water, so it's going to evaporate a little more quickly. If you're constantly gone and can't be out in your garden that much, I'd honestly go with the larger pot sizes, and maybe 5 gallons could work with you. That is an ideal size. But if you're often around and you have some lettuce plants or something, you can always go with the smaller sizes. But just so you know, watering once or twice a week is kind of a good medium. I kind of do that with my plants here, but you can always go more if your area is more dry or humid. Thank you guys for watching. If you want to check out my second channel, Toaster Dolphin, where we engage in gaming content, and if you like horror games or indie horror games or really a lot of those fun games, make sure to check that out. This content is based on gardening, so if you want to see some helpful tips on how to grow more plants, please make sure to subscribe. I'll see you guys later.